I'm sure most people out here have at least heard of the Talking Heads. If you haven't, you've definitely heard their music at some point. Most likely Psycho Killer or Once in a Lifetime. Psycho Killer especially is a huge one. Just this year I heard it in 3 different fucking shows. Mindhunter Season 1,
Nervous and I can't relax. I can't sleep 'cause my bed's on fire.
The Boys Season 2,
My bed's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer.
and Stranger Things Season 4.
Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire.
Have you seen or heard from Eddie recently?
Eddie Munson.
Which is pretty insane. You might also remember that song I Zombra from the opening scene of No Way Home.
We should go.
That was also them. I don't know. I'm out here fucking scratching the surface of how hugely famous and prolific these guys are. What am I even saying? The Talking Heads are huge. They're one of the biggest bands of all time. And for film fans such as myself, we've all definitely come across Stop Making Sense at some point. A Talking Heads concert film from 1984 that is also one of the highest rated, most critically praised films of all time, just in general. And it recently got a brand new 4K IMAX restoration and a theatrical re-release last month for its 40th anniversary, which is why I decided to make this video. I've seen the film before, of course, about 3 years ago, just on DVD, and it launched my love for the Talking Heads. I would consider them to be my favorite band, and I've consumed nearly every other film-related project tied to the band. I absolutely adore David Byrne's True Stories, a beautiful Coen Brothers-esque total oddball comedy. American Utopia is also awesome, but there's just something about Stop Making Sense that keeps pulling me back, and I couldn't put my finger on why. It's just a recording of a concert. Why is it so captivating? Well, upon seeing this new IMAX re-release of it, which was the most incredible theater experience I've had all year, I think I was able to figure it out. Stop Making Sense is a concert movie directed by Jonathan Demme, which you might know as the guy who did Silence of the Lambs or Philadelphia. The film is made up of basically the best parts of 3 different concerts the band did on their Speaking in Tongues tour, and seamlessly edited together to form one large, perfect concert experience. In the beginning, we're introduced to David Byrne on his own, and as it progresses through the first few songs, the rest of the band slowly trickles out and fills the stage. It's not until Burning Down the House that the full extended band is on stage altogether, each of the different elements of their music and talents blending together in one extraordinary performance. The perfect encapsulation of everything that's come before leading up to it. But from a visual standpoint, outside of Demme's direction, it's all pretty standard. After Burning Down the House, around the halfway point, things get a little crazier. Images are projected onto the screen behind the band, some props are introduced, such as this lamp during Naive Melody. The costumes get more exaggerated and change for each song, and the lighting becomes much more noticeable and expressive. Essentially, the film from a visual standpoint starts off simple enough, but as it goes along, it becomes much more cinematic and expressive from a filmmaking standpoint. The set dressing here is very intentionally minimal. When you look at some other big concert movies, they try to go for being as big and expressive as possible, in a way to possibly overcompensate for the fact that filming just the band or just the singer on their own isn't that interesting. But here, the Talking Heads, they just don't have that problem, because they themselves are so fun to watch. It doesn't become overly cinematic or expressive until the way later parts of the film, and even then, what's going on visually isn't that crazy. The main set piece of the film is just David Byrne wearing a comically oversized suit. But it's the stunning direction from Demme, accompanied by some great lighting, editing, and magnificent stage presence from the band, that makes what you're looking at feel so much more elevated than it is. And I think the minimal set dressing really does wonders when it comes to highlighting the individual performances from the bandmates, since there are no other onstage distractions. Jonathan Demme shoots and the editor Lisa Day cuts the film just like a scripted narrative movie. Each member of the band is a character, and you get these little glimpses of their connection and interpersonal relationships with one another scattered throughout the film. The little glances they share with each other, the camera holding on moments that shine a light on their camaraderie, the intentional blocking and framing on Demme's part, everything tells a story. Each song is uniquely shot, framed, and lit, which gives each one its own personality. There's the loud and bombastic nature of Burning Down the House. There's the softer, melancholic editing and pace of Just Like Heaven. And probably my personal favorite, the mythical, exaggerated, church-like aesthetic of Once in a Lifetime. It's all about the band and the music. The film focuses entirely on them. It never cuts away from the stage or to the audience or anything, at least not until the very end of the performance, where we get a series of quick cuts to the audience's reactions, which feels like such a triumphant and relieving moment. So we talked about the minimal set dressing, the strong stage presence of the band, and the interesting structure that grows from one performer into a massive group. Demme's direction and the interesting ways the filmmaking changes over the course of the film, these are all different aspects that play into why the film is so effective and well composed. But the main, basically secret sauce that ties the whole experience together and solidifies it as something so unique and special that elevates it above so many other films of its type is that it's an ensemble piece. It's been described by Richard Brody of The New Yorker and Spike Lee in a really bad Q&A after the live screening event as an ensemble film. And this core aspect about the concert is what makes it so important. As I said earlier, when the film begins, it's just David Byrne alone on stage, performing an acoustic rendition of Psycho Killer with a guitar and a boombox.
Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est?
But with each subsequent song, more band members and instruments join in. The stage gets filled in more and more, and there's a real sense of familiarity and community between each new member who gets involved. This gradual build-up with the extended band trickling in gives the film an organic feeling of growth, as it morphs from a solo performance into a full-blown ensemble concert. This progression of events creates almost a narrative arc. It feels like there's a story being told through the music and through the performance, which I'll get into a little bit later. David Byrne is undeniably the face of Talking Heads, and the most visually striking performer, but every band member has a chance to shine. Tina Weymouth, Chris Frantz, and Jerry Harrison are each just as integral to the performance as Byrne is. And alongside the core members of the Talking Heads, the film also gives a lot of screen time to additional touring members like the backup singers Lynn Mabry and Edna Holt, Steve Scales and keyboardist Bernie Worrell, and guitarist Alex Weir. And the huge mixing pot of unique personalities and character each of them brings shows on stage. There's so much personality on display here, and it creates such a strong sense of unity and collective performance. They feed off of each other's energy and complement each other. There's a clear lack of hierarchy on the stage, and it just basically becomes one bulbous mass of all these incredible different performers doing their own thing. Byrne is the primary vocalist and frontman, but it doesn't elevate him above the others. Demme highlights each and every one of these band members almost equally, and emphasizes the whole group over just one single performer. The ensemble nature of the film is what elevates it from just a fine recording of a Talking Heads concert to an electric, dynamic, and multifaceted piece that's brilliantly engaging to watch. There is an almost unearthly, ethereal feel you get from watching Stop Making Sense that I find somewhat hard to express with words. In every moment, there's so much energy pulsating throughout its images. It invigorates you and you become absorbed in it in a way I've rarely felt with many narrative films. And at the end of the day, all you're really watching are just a bunch of people playing music, singing, dancing, and expressing themselves artistically. There's such a profound humanist aspect to it. Like, this is what humans are capable of with just a few tools like a guitar and a drum set. I might be sounding a bit crazy here, but there's something very profound here with how much humanity is encapsulated within this performance, and through its structure. At first, it's a solo act, then Byrne is joined by another and another, until a strong sense of community and familial bonds are formed. As we progress, suddenly it's life during wartime. That sense of community is abandoned and things become more abrasive. People are being torn apart from each other. And after life during wartime, the songs have a more negative tonal aspect to them. The songs like Swamp and Making Flippy Floppy focus on people trying to manipulate each other and double-cross each other. The set dressing represents a more oppressive, industrial vibe. But afterward, there's a bit of a renaissance. People begin to form that sense of community and trust within each other again, with the songs This Must Be the Place and What a Day That Was. Afterwards, Byrne essentially becomes a religious figure, preaching to his audience like a mad god about how life is short and we're all wasting away and going to die one day, and time will keep moving forward as if we never existed.
Time isn't holding us. Time isn't after us. Time isn't holding us. Time isn't holding us. Letting the days go by. Letting the days go by.
Once in a Lifetime is a hugely existential song when you break it down. Then after that revelation, it's basically all just positive vibes. Learning to live and love each other, focusing on our own individual dramas rather than turning everything into a massive global problem that tears everyone apart. Now, are the Talking Heads trying to form some sort of very loose, open-ended narrative through their music, or am I reading too deep into it? Probably the latter, but I like to believe that there is some deeper commentary about humanity and the human condition layered throughout this show that was intentional on part of David Byrne and the Talking Heads. But even me asking these questions is part of what makes Stop Making Sense such an extraordinary feat. I'm actually pulling interpretations of a story out of a concert movie. There's so much more going on subconsciously that transcends just the music and just the performance, which is of course something the staging, the performances, Dem's direction, and the larger ensemble cast all play a part in. Which is why 40 years later, I and many others agree that Stop Making Sense remains the undisputed king of the concert film. It doesn't get any better than this. No hate to Taylor though, she's out here literally saving movie theaters right now. Good on her. Thanks.